We are back here on OOTP 25 with the Los Angeles Angels, and it is the start of the offseason here where we're going to be making some changes here to this team. The big one is going to be the pitching staff. The pitching staff, it just needs some revamping. We have too many guys. If I go and just sort this real quick by pitching ratings, we have too many guys with bad control. We just give up too many walks every single year. Our walks are an issue. We just walk too many guys. We also give up too many home runs. This year, I'm pretty sure I foolishly said that, like, I'm pretty sure I got down to, like, these guys, and I was like, oh, they didn't have a home run issue. It's like, yes, they did, you moron. These guys all had home run issues. The whole goddamn staff had home run issues. But yeah, we need to figure out the walks and the home runs. So I'm thinking we're going to have to revamp this bullpen and this staff a little bit. Like I said, Senga here is an expiring free agent. He's not going to be on the team. Jacob Miller will be back, though, and he's fine with control. He's got 50. We can make that work. Strider, probably... Maybe he'll be back, maybe not. It depends on what he wants to re-sign if we take a look. I mean, we might bring him back for that. We've got a decent amount of money to spend. I'll come back and make a decision on that, but he might be back on next year's team. But I really don't like this because we're trying to limit the home runs too. And I think I've kind of gotten to be with this save. I've been a little bit more lax on having fly ball pitchers, I feel like. Whereas if I'm just like playing a save where I'm not recording, or even in my recordings previously, if I see a fly ball pitcher, I'm just like, this dude, I don't care if he's 20 points better than the guy I want. I don't want him. He's not good. He's not going to cut it for me. And that's generally how I play the game when I'm just like simming and not sitting here talking out my decisions for a video. But, I feel like I've been more lax on the fly ball guys, so I feel like we're really going to cut down on that. We're going to be trying to get more neutral, more ground ball guys, and if we do go fly ball guys, they're just going to be regular fly ball pitchers and not extreme fly balls. So, maybe we bring back Strider, but probably not. Obviously, we have Gallen. He's fine. He's not part of the problem. The home runs ticked up a little bit, but I mean, 1.1 is it's not like ideal, but it's not awful. It's fine. He doesn't walk guys either. Obviously, he's getting up there in age, so at this point, I think he's more of like a number 2 for us. So, like, if I just very quickly and roughly go through here, and then we do want to bring back Santa, who obviously he's a problem with the control. But he was just so good for us last year, and he's a legit piece of our bullpen at this point. So, I feel like we can survive with like 1 or 2 guys that have a control issue. Maybe only 1 in the rotation. But it's not the end of the world if your entire staff isn't guys with 70 control. So yeah, if we just take a quick look through what I think the rotation is going to be heading into free agency, where we're trying to address everything. I think Gallen's more of a number 2 at this point. I think Santa's the 3. And I think Miller is like a 4 or 5, probably a 5. So that leaves 2 rotation spots open for us this year. It could be guys in the bullpen, like Jeremiah Estrada here, could be a member of our rotation. Obviously, he has the control issue, though. So that's what makes me want to just have him as a stopper for us next season, because we do have him for 1 more season. I think he should be a stopper. I just don't want to put another 40 control guy in the rotation. I think he's much better as a stopper. He could just be a really high level reliever for us, rather than being like a guy who's just gonna, he's probably still gonna be good in the rotation, but he's gonna be walking a ton of guys is the issue. So I think that's what we're leaning with him. I don't think we really have any other bullpen guys. Maybe Eric Rose, because he has the 35 stamina. He's got the really good control. What I might try to do is put him in the lab. And I'm not sure if this counts as an off speed, or like how you would get this up in the lab. Because let's just take a look at the lab real quick. And not that like you guys can, I mean, you guys can comment being like, oh, this is how you change that. This is how you upgrade that. But I'm not going to see that until like July. So it's a bit of a lost cause for me right now, unless I figure it out on my own, which I can figure it out on my own. I'm sure I can look it up or whatever. But if we take a look at the dev lab here, and we go like Eric Rose, boom. So we're trying to move up this sinker, but these are all like fastball pitches, and obviously he has the control looking for. I feel like he can be a starter. Let's say we move him to starting pitcher. Boom, it only drops down to 50. I'm fine with that. Him and Miller at the back end of the rotation, I think that could work. Obviously, he's not going to be a guy who goes deep into ball games, but he has the home run suppression and he has the control of a guy who can be like really efficient and make those pitches matter to go deeper into games with the limited stamina. So it's like, since that is a fastball pitch, and like if you go secondary pitch improvement, I guess it's improving a pitcher's secondary pitch in general. So would this improve that? Would that be the secondary pitch, or would it just count the fastball as the secondary pitch? Or I guess the fastball with the primary pitch, even? I don't know. I don't know exactly how this game takes into account what it is. We might just try doing secondary pitch improvement and hoping he can possibly improve this sinker on his own, if that's not what it is. Because I don't think that it is improved pitch arsenal, because this focuses primarily on one of their bad off-speed pitches. And the fact that it says off-speed pitches makes me think that it would not do anything for this, because a sinker is not an off-speed pitch. So I think what we're going to do with him, just right now, we're just going to throw secondary pitch improvement. It's an easy one. He should be able to get that done. And we'll see how that goes for him, and maybe Eric Rose can be a member of our rotation this year, or even if he's not, he can be a very, very good reliever for us as just a really out of nowhere guy for a 16th round pick. But yeah, let's just say like Eric Rose slots into this spot here. We would probably limit him to like 85 pitches. Boom. And let's just say this is like this. But then we would definitely need a lefty. I don't want to have a rotation of 5 righties. So it's like, that makes it so like if we can go out, and it's like, if we can go out in free agency and sign an ace, he needs to be a lefty. Or we can go maybe like double B tier options, where we have like a guy at Zach Gallen's level as like a 1-2 option, and we could just, do whatever we do with that. Let's just take a look real quick at who is projected to be in free agency here. Isn't that free agent? Yes, upcoming free agents. Skeens. Okay. I mean, it is Pittsburgh. So if Pittsburgh is probably letting him walk because it's Pittsburgh, and I don't think Pittsburgh is going to be re-signing a guy like this. Obviously, he's going to want an absolute shit ton of money. Can we afford that? Probably not. Like, it would take out, like, I mean, I don't think if he wants like 40 million, we won't be able to afford that. At least what it is right now. Obviously, we have to go through arbitration and see what we're going to do with these guys and whatnot. And we have to figure out what we're going to do with Santa. With Santa, it's probably at least going to be just he has one more year of arbitration. But like a bunch of these guys, we could look to flip. Brock Wilken is a guy who I am looking to flip to trade for a starter. I just don't think he fits with our roster construction right now. So he has value, at least he should. So we should be able to get a decent player for Brock Wilken. A decent pitcher is what we're looking to flip him for. Serto's not going to be back. Bob Moore probably not going to be back. Maybe he is. I mean, he's a good backup, but I just don't think he's ever going to start for us. He's just kind of a guy he's obviously he's captain, so maybe we bring him back. I don't know. I would not be opposed to bringing back Bob Moore, but like Wilken, we're trying to flip. Nick Kurtz is at this point just like a depth guy for us, and he has one more option, so maybe we do bring him back as like an option if we need a lefty power bat at some point at first base or DH. If somebody gets hurt, he could come in. But that's the thing, is he's a first base DH. He doesn't play anywhere else. Also, I should mention, I just got it's Tuesday as I'm recording this. The Tuesday after the first weekend of the NCAA regionals. I was doing Leo DiCaprio pointing meme the whole weekend as just guys were popping up. Oh, there's Nick Kurtz. Oh, there's Andrew Healy on Duke. Oh, there's Harrison Didowick on Virginia. It was just Leo DiCaprio pointing meme the whole goddamn weekend. And then on top of that, if we take a look at the waiver wire, just quick little spot here. not going to claim this guy. This is the exact type of guy that I always talk about, where the AI will be like, "Oh, we're going to waive this guy," and I could very easily claim this guy and just have like Hoppy. I could have a legit starting catcher for us if we needed that, which we don't. But this is the type of guy that I try to limit myself from not claiming, because there's no reason why this guy would ever be on waivers as a top 100 prospect. But I pulled this up because there are a bunch of guys in here. You can see we have a claim on Will Gasparino. That's because he has big power, decent corner outfield type guy. Still has the 50 potential. He has the high loyalty, the low financial ambition, but he has low leader and low work ethic, which isn't the greatest. But he does have the power. He has the speed. He has a decent bit of range. He's never really gotten a shot in the big leagues here. You see he has 3 days in the major leagues. And it's mainly against lefties. He does have a little bit of pop against righties, but he's more of a guy who faces lefties for the most part. And the big reason why I put a claim on him is because he has 2 option years left. So he can be a guy who can slot into our 40-man roster, and he can be a guy that we don't have to actually play in the major leagues if we don't have a spot for him. Because we do have a bunch of guys who have this profile, like Harrison Didewick and Randy DeJesus, who neither are currently on the roster. But if we go down here and we look at Harrison Didewick, similar profile. He's a lefty, though. He has the better personality. But he has 1 option year, so he'd probably stick around as a lefty depth guy for us, most likely. But then somebody like, I guess I DFA'd Randy DeJesus because Randy DeJesus has no more option years. So, Didewick, or not Didewick, but comparing DeJesus here to Gasparino, yeah, they're very similar players. Gasparino's even a little bit better at the contact and avoid eye than DeJesus is. And it just comes down to they're both right-handed bats, and Gasparino here has the 2 options, whereas DeJesus does not, and they're both even 25. So DeJesus' spot on the roster is probably going to be taken over by Gasparino here this upcoming season, assuming this claim goes through, and DeJesus will either be in the minor leagues or he'll be maybe traded. We'll have to see what we do with him. And I should also mention that we do have a couple option decisions to go with. Dylan Carlson is an interesting one because he did not really hit that great for us. He was basically an exactly league average hitter for us, which was about what I expected him to be with the bat. But he was really, really good defensively with a 14 ZR essentially in right field. I mean, that's insane. We knew that he was going to be good defensively in right field because teams just kept trying to shove him in center, and every time they did, he was just bad there. But he's got the ratings to where he should be a really good corner outfielder, and what do you know? He was. He was, folks. Bit of a lefty feaster for us. 140 WRC plus against lefties, 88 against righties, and you would expect that with his ratings. And he is going to be 32. He's going to be 32. He'll be 33 by the end of the season. So, he is a bit of an older option here. I'll have to take a look at what the possible lineup could look like. If we go just quickly skimming through here and we go Soto is obviously going to be the DH. Ohapi is the catcher. Shanuel's at first. Broyhill is an interesting guy because he's fragile. He's never really had a huge injury, but I guess he's just had enough nagging ones to where he's dropped down to fragile, which is definitely a bummer. So because of that, I might even think about throwing him in the development lab for durability, which is a hard one. It's not exactly an easy thing to upgrade, but I think it'd be worth it because he's 24. He's not even 25 yet. He's still got halfway of his 24 year old year. What am I even talking about? He's halfway to 25 essentially, and he's obviously a very good player. Put up a 4 WAR for us last year. 2.6 for us the year before. And he did only play 95 games because he was hurt. Because we take a look, a lot of these happened in 2030. He had the strained abdominal muscle, missed 4 weeks, missed 3 weeks with a strained back. And then he had a couple nagging ones as well, including an oblique strain. So he just had a bunch of nagging injuries just last year, and was pretty healthy for the majority of his career before that. But yeah, Broyhill here, just he's really good, and I think we're just going to kind of roll the dice with this fragile guy and see if we can possibly up that in the development lab. But I don't want to get rid of him. He's our center fielder. I think that is set in stone right now. And then Zach Neto obviously is going to be our second baseman. He's getting up there in years. His contract's going to start winding down here as one more guaranteed year. So he's kind of like at a year-to-year thing at this point, but we're obviously going to keep rolling with him as long as he's putting up WARs like this, and he's even climbing, folks. So we'll see how it goes. A big 28 home run jump for him this season. So he's obviously second base. And then this is where things get a bit shaky, I would say, a bit like up in the air. So first we should probably go here and call up guys who are on the 40-man just to see if they have a spot on the roster. Rios probably not. This guy is like a David Fry type. If you remember, he's been on our AAA team for quite a while now. He's at the point of his career where we should probably move on from him, but the fact that he's like David Fry makes me not want to move on from him, because he can play catcher a little bit, he can play first base, he can play corner outfield. None of it really that well, but the fact that he has that versatility makes me want to keep him around. But I mean, we probably just move on from him, but he's not like an actual option for us in the left field. So then we'll just call up all these guys just to have options to look at when it comes to players, when it comes to sorting out or projecting what this team is going to look like. Yeah, and then Lara and LeBaron. Those guys are both relievers, though. LeBaron, reliever. Lara, reliever. And if you're wondering, this is sorted by, tiers of relievers that I think is Healy, Estrada. Those are going to be our double-barreled stoppers, I'm thinking. Solometo, I liked what he did for us enough last year to where we might bring him back, and he's got a good enough control to where I might bring him back as a lefty specialist mainly sort of guy, because that is what he is. He's much better against lefties than he is righties. He's got the sidearm profile. So that's basically what he is. Lopez is control issue and fly ball issue. Obviously, that came up a bit last year. His K rate dropped as well. He was still serviceable, but he wasn't great for us last year. So I don't think he's a stopper for us, but we do have him signed. I keep clicking on that wrong thing. We do have him signed for one more year at a very cheap price. So it's we might as well have him around, and then we can just, we can easily get rid of him if he's not performing for us next season. But he's part of the lore at this point here in the series. Ben Joyce, we have him for at least one more season at 6.5, and then we could possibly have 1 year of his free agency bought out at $7 million if we decide to, which I wouldn't be too opposed to, because it depends. If he puts up another season like this where he leads where he has a solid reliever season for us, but he hasn't done that consistently. If we take a look at his MLB stats here, 2024 was bad. 2025 was serviceable. 2026 was bad. 2027 was serviceable. 2028 was bad. I guess he just goes back and forth. So if this holds true, he should be in line to give us a really good 2031, and then we will just simply not take the team option because he is then being projected to have a bad season. I think I've just cracked the code here, folks. But anyways, and then this third tier are two dudes that could be on the staff, could not be. Skylar Hales, I think I called him Hayes about 80 times. I don't know why, but Skylar Hales, who we picked up from Tampa Bay, the Santa Clara man, throws really hard, ground ball pitcher, has 50 control. I like his stuff. He hasn't been great in AAA, but it is AAA. It is Salt Lake. So we'll see how it goes. But he's obviously a bit older, but he still has one option, so he's also making the league minimum, so he's obviously worth keeping around. And then Jackson Peavy, same deal with him, where he's very young, he's fragile now. He did not have the greatest debuts in the big leagues here in 25 and a third innings, but it is only 25 and a third innings. He hasn't pitched that many innings in the higher level, the minor leagues. and he still has 2 options because we used his first option this year. So he's a guy who's probably not going to start with the big league team in 2023 or 2031. What am I talking about? 2031. But he's definitely an option for us as a lefty, multi-inning, versatile sort of player for us. And then I should probably also include LeBaron Johnson and Lara in like that third tier of pitcher, because Lara is a guy we traded for from Atlanta. He's got decent enough stuff. Has 1 more option year. He's fine to keep around. Also on the league minimum. And then LeBaron Johnson is a guy who is also not yet arbitration eligible. He does not have any options though, and he also has 40 control. So he might be a guy we try to move on from. But he's like, if we're gonna have control issues, I want it to be in the bullpen. I just don't want dudes to have like really awful control. But we're definitely going to be mixing things up. He might be a guy we try to look to move on from, but we'll have to see how things go, because he was not good for us last year. But, relievers are so volatile. We'll have to see how things go. But he's not a guy I'm looking at to be like a key piece of the bullpen. As you can see, he is very clearly in my third tier of reliever section here. And then these guys are all guys who are just probably not going to be on the team next year. Woodruff, Senga, and Strider are all expiring, and then Urania is out of options. He has 40 control, and he does not have good enough movement or stuff for me to overlook the fact that he has 40 control. So he's just kind of out at this point. He's a guy who's been here since day one. He's a real-life player that the Angels have, but, got to the big leagues, never really was too great for us. Or I guess he was actually pretty good for us last year, but, it looks like he was one of the only guys who didn't have a home run issue. But like I said, he's out of options. We're probably trying to move on from him here and get a guy who can give us similar production. It's not hard to find this type of production in the bullpen, I don't feel like. All right, so now that I've gone and talked about all this other stuff and just rambled for like an hour, it feels like, let's get back here to what the rest of this lineup could project to be this season. So if we sort by position here, so third, short, left, and right is like open for us. So like, say we take on Dylan Carlson's $7 million this year, which I'm not opposed to doing. I'm honestly probably leaning doing it because we're trying to improve the pitching, and obviously having a guy who can put up this type of ZR, even if it is in the corner, is definitely very helpful to that. So Dylan Carlson. And then also Broyhill, obviously, is a very good center fielder as well. So Broyhill has that going for him. So let's just say we pick up Carlson's option. He's our right fielder. Then left field becomes interesting to me, because we could just repeat this Johnson-Gutierrez tandem, because Gutierrez was really good against lefties, as we thought he was going to be. He is, I guess he auto-renews at $1 million for us. I think that's how it works with him. Yes, he auto-renews at $1 million, and then he's arbitration eligible next season. So yeah, we could easily just run that back as Gutierrez playing against lefties and Josh Johnson playing against... I don't know why I do this. I know you can right-click, and I know you can pull this down. I don't know. It must be a habit. But yeah, so we could easily do like Gutierrez against lefties and Johnson against righties, because Johnson is the righty bat. But Johnson's also a guy who can hold his own against lefties, or I guess it does drop a little bit now. But it's still green, like he's not awful against lefties. But Gutierrez is obviously much better against lefties. So, I'm fine with having this platoon in left field again. The thing is, only Gutierrez is good defensively. You can see here he had 2 ZR in left, a 1 ZR in right, not good in center, though. We knew that about him. But he's kind of just a guy who spots you a game here and there in center. Whereas Johnson is just not good in left field, as you can see, just straight up bad. And we are trying to have good defense. But Johnson is a good bat. He had a 117 WRC+, which is solid, 15 doubles, 14 home runs. I think he has more in his bat than this, if I'm being honest. But is it enough to overlook the defense? Maybe, maybe not. So left field could be that platoon. I would be fine with running that back. We don't really have another guy on the 40 man who we would want to run that spot. Like, I think Turley is just like a backup. He's like a fourth outfielder type for us, which he might even be our fourth outfielder this season. So let's just say that Gavin Turley is our backup fourth outfielder. I would be fine with that. He's obviously got the really good range. He could slot in and play center field if something happens to Broyhill. Now, it is not great to have your backup center fielder also be fragile, but that is a thing about this game I've noticed, is that once you get into these later seasons, it seems like everybody is at least fragile. I mean, you're just basically waiting until like everybody is wrecked. I don't know if it's something to do with how the game is programmed, or maybe I just get really unlucky in my saves, because I play on like the default injury rating, at least I believe. Yes, I play on the normal injury rating. Nothing is like out of whack there, but I feel like whenever we get late into these saves, especially, I don't know, maybe I don't know if it's especially this season, but I feel like whenever we get late into these OOTP saves, there are just a lot more dudes who get the fragile and wrecked, to the point where, like, basically every year in free agency, it's just like nothing but fragile and wrecked dudes at the top of the class. But yeah. So yeah, Turley, Broyhill, center field action there. And then where it gets really interesting is third base and shortstop, because obviously we got rid of Kyron Paris. Oh, also I should mention, we do have some dudes down in the minor leagues who could possibly play in the corners for us. I guess I should probably mention, I should just go to the AAA roster. So, like, Terrence Keel, obviously not, this dropped to 70. That's not good. Current, yeah, his defense improved from 70 to 75, and then 70. Okay, so it improved and then dropped, like, right at the start of last season, because I swore the last time I looked at this was 75. Obviously, it's still very, very good, but 75 is obviously a tick higher than 70. High leader intelligence, really good speed profile, really good defense profile. Obviously never going to hit a ton for you. Pretty bad against both sides, even as a switch hitter. But, you know, he was in AA for most of... I guess he split last year between AA and AAA. And he was really good in AA. He was, like, kind of figuring out AAA. We take a look at his fielding stats here. You would think this would be higher. You would think the ZR would be higher with this type of defensive profile, but he's a guy who's interesting. He does need to be on the Rule 5 this year. He probably will be, but he's like a depth option for us. Saeed Matthews is another guy who is eligible for the Rule 5, so he will be on the 40-man. He's more of a corner at this point, I feel like. He can give you a little bit center field, but I would say he's more ideally a corner. He has a little bit better of a bat than Keel does, but his bat has definitely not developed to be what we thought it was going to be. And because of that, this is a guy, maybe not Keel, because Keel we could have as like a backup center fielder, but like a guy like Saeed Matthews, I would not be opposed to trading, just because I don't think this bat is going to be good enough to be a corner outfielder. Obviously, he was another guy who was really good in AA, came up to AAA last year, was like fine, but not great. And he's also, you know, he's puts up like okay-ish ZRs. He probably still has some value. He's a guy I wouldn't mind moving on from, because we can't keep all these guys. I can't hang on to every single prospect imaginable. And, you know, this guy's at a point in his career where it's like, it's put up or shut up time. And I just don't think he's going to be putting up with the Los Angeles Angels. So I think it'd be better suited for us if we trade a guy like this. And then our guy Alvaro Dowd here has developed quite a bit. He's basically what he is at this point, 70 range, shortstop. You could take a look at his ZR, puts up a 7 ZR at shortstop for us last season. He is a guy who does not need to be on the Rule 5 draft right away, but he is a guy who might give us some shortstop innings at some point, because he's just way too good of a glove to ignore. And he's got like a good enough bat to be like a guy who could possibly give you like some slap hitting singles type of thing and kind of hold his own, or kind of like tread water, put up like an 80 WRC plus type in the big leagues. I feel like he is definitely capable of that. But I don't think he is going to be a guy who does that like to start the season. So what I'm thinking is Lombard, showed me enough down the stretch to where he ended the year on fire. We take a look at his batting stats here in the major leagues. I'm going to the wrong page. Major leagues splits. Yeah, you could see here really hot in September to end the season, but he was just really bad for the rest of the season. But he was good for us the previous 2 years. And he's also still only 25. He's got the good defense profile. I don't think I want to give up on a guy like this. And the thing is, if we move on from a guy like Bob Moore from being our backup infielder, we have, like, say, Lombard plays third for us. Do we want to run this guy at shortstop? This guy who has the weird profile to where he only has 60 range, but he has the 75 error with it, and only 55 turn double play. But for whatever reason, it's a 60 shortstop, and I guess he was negative at shortstop. Okay, so he was like, he was really good at shortstop in AAA, which is really weird to me. I don't know. Maybe that's just really fluky because he came up and gave us even more innings in the big leagues and was bad at shortstop. So maybe this was just really fluky. But it's weird to me that he was able to put up a 5 ZR at shortstop in AAA and then come up and just be a bad shortstop in the big leagues. So it's like, which was the fluke? This or this? And the fact that these are his ratings make me think that AAA was the fluke. Yeah. So I'm thinking he's definitely more of a shortstop, corner outfield type. And he's another guy where it's like, he could be a third baseman, he could be a corner outfield. And then we also have Gianandrea Amorfin here, who is definitely more of a third baseman. And I like his profile as well. So if we move on from somebody like Bob Moore, because he's projected to make like 5.5 million as a backup, as just like a doesn't really start anywhere, just kind of like a backup option at every position in the infield sort of guy. I don't know if that's worth 5.5 million. I feel like we could easily get that from a guy like Morfin or even Padilla for obviously the league minimum. So like, let's just say that Padilla makes the roster as the backup second, third, and short, and then also some corner outfield. Maybe Morfin can also be on the roster at some point. Maybe he starts. We have options, is what I'm trying to say. So maybe we go out into free agency and we try to find a pitcher and a shortstop, or maybe Dow just starts the year as the shortstop. I'm just kind of brainstorming here. Obviously, I'm going to be doing this thing all as I'm just, going through the offseason here. I'm just kind of spitballing here, laying out options, just brainstorming out loud as we embark on the offseason. And also, one thing that you've probably seen because I go to the mail news here, Logan O'Hoppe. We need to make a decision on his option year because we are already at the point where Logan O'Hoppe is entering the last year of this extension we gave him once we opt into this, which we are going to do, obviously. We are going to execute his option. So, boom. Logan O'Hoppe is with us next season. 80 great potential. Obviously, we all know about Logan O'Hoppe. He has put up this incredible he's been incredible since the start. Just consistently a 3-WAR player. He had this 3-year stretch where he was just absolutely insane for us, putting up like high 30s, 40 home runs. Now he has ticked back down to being more of a 3-WAR player, which is still very good. And his bat also improved after he had the down year in 2029. So the bat is back. He is going to be entering his age 31 season. So it's like, how long of an extension would we want to... Okay. I don't know if I want to give him the opt-out, but like, maybe we give him like a 5-year deal. We don't include the opt-out. We make this a team option, and maybe we like drop this down a bunch. Let's just see what he thinks of that. Okay, so I'll mess with this a bit, and we'll try to get O'Hoppe extended because obviously he's a guy we want to keep around long term. I want Logan O'Hoppe to be a very long term Angels player. and he is still very much good enough to be a catcher for us long term. I thought maybe at some point we would have to get rid of him. We'd have to move him to like a DH or first base type guy. But his defense has been solid enough. He's even improved this. I feel like this used to be green, and now it's teal and blue. We take a look here. Yeah, defensive rating at catcher improved in 2028. Even just 2028. Defensive rating. Yeah, he's been just improving constantly. Really. So Logan O'Hoppe, definitely a guy who we want to keep around long term. And then we are also going to be getting close to having to make a decision on Shanuel too, because we had him for even cheaper. And the thing about him is that he's a first baseman. He obviously is a big part of our team. But the weird thing about our team is that we are built around DH first base and like a offense first with like he's improved his defense, but he's still not putting up like great framing run numbers, but he's good enough defensively as a catcher. So our hitters are built around like an offense first catcher, a first baseman, and a DH. And I guess now we have a center fielder, even though he's fragile. But we don't really have like a franchise shortstop, which is what you would usually want to be built up the middle. We're just not. And like Shanuel, obviously he's put up these insane years for us, but he is a first baseman. And he's not a great first baseman. He's like a poor defensive first baseman whose value is all bat. It really just depends on what he wants, and he won't listen to an extension yet. It really just depends on what he's going to want when he hits the ability to be extended. So I would say probably next offseason, we're going to be looking to see what he wants. And obviously we are going to accept this 18.4 for him for 2032, so we at least have 2 more years of Shanuel. But if he's like a guy who's like, hey, pay me $40 million a year to be your first baseman, I'm sorry, but I don't think we're going to be doing that. I also was contemplating on possibly making another run at Amari Greenidge here to see if we, maybe they held him in AAA again for a season and was like, we could, maybe get him because they were finally like, okay, we're not going to be able to play this guy. That's not the case. They played him in the big leagues this season. He was like a league average hitter, really good 3 WAR for them, and he had a 13 ZR. So I don't think the Padres are going to be looking to move on from Amari Greenidge here. So we're going to have to find our shortstop somewhere else. Maybe it's Alvaro Dowd, like I said, in AA for us to end last season. Maybe he's our shortstop. Maybe he's not. We'll have to go about trying to find somebody. All right, so here's what we're going to be doing in the development lab here in the 2030 offseason. We already went over Eric Rose. We're going to be trying to improve this sinker pitch and make sure that he's got a legit third pitch to be a member of our starting rotation. With the 35 stamina here, he's got the 60 control. He's like the exact type of profile we're looking for here to help improve our walk rates. He does have a bit of a home run issue, but that is something that I guess he has had in the minors too. But we're willing to roll the dice. He has the 60 home run suppression. I think that he's going to be fine if he develops this sinker as a member of the rotation for us. And even if he is just a bullpen guy, we're fine with that. And even if he doesn't develop this, I still might try him in the rotation and just see if he can develop that on his own while he's pitching in the rotation. Because, it does say it has 10 potential development, so we'll see if that ever comes to fruition. Mike Broyhill, like I said, we are going to be trying to improve his durability because it's now down to fragile. We would like to see that back up to normal because he's a guy who's like somebody we might want to like give a long-term extension to. And I don't really want to give a long-term extension to him if he's fragile. It just comes down to that. Alvaro Dowd, the guy we might play at shortstop this season, just trying to improve this gap power. Maybe we get really lucky and T is able to bump even the potential up to 50. And I feel like that just makes him a much more viable of an offensive player than it would if he just had the simple 40 gap power. If he's able to get this up to 45, maybe 50 potential, maybe even 50 someday, and he has the like swing at everything, not going to strike out a lot, decent speed, suddenly he's a bit more interesting of a hitter Not a good hitter, just a bit more interesting. I feel like that was worth throwing in the development lab. And then we're doing the double control improvement on Amari Collar here, who spent last year split between AA and AAA. He might be on our big league team this season because I'm just tired of having these dudes in our system like this who look like they could be a legit dude for us, and then they just come up to they have an injury. Like Chris Sands has gotten hurt twice now. Patrick Forbes missed all this past season. I'm tired of it happening. So is it going to be rushing this guy to the big leagues? If he hasn't, developed any of this stuff into like the green, aside for BABIP and his fastball, maybe. But maybe we start him in the bullpen here and see how it goes, because I just want to get a dude like this to the big leagues and see if he can become a dude for us. Because I have had success in the past promoting a guy like this that looks like they could be really good, and they just kind of develop into their own in the big leagues. So that very well could happen. But we'll have to see how it goes with Amari Collar, and as we are trying to improve this control on the dev lab. Same thing with Mike Bray here, who was our second-round pick in this previous draft. He is another one of these starters we took and is looking pretty good. He was in high A last year, or split between A and high A, was really good in both levels. And it looks like he could have some really good movement, really good control. The type of guy we're looking for, ground ball pitcher. We're trying to improve the control. And then for Morphin here, Gian Andrea, we are trying to improve his his eye. Is it? No, his bat speed. We're trying to improve his bat speed. We want to get this power up to 50. We want the green there. I need some improvement. We need to see it. So Gian Andrea Morphin, we're trying to get this power up to 50. Maybe we can even tap into some untapped 55 power potential, possibly. But at the very least, we're trying to get this power developed. And then Juan Padilla, same thing with him. We're trying to tap into this 55 power, just because I feel like that's going to help him become a much better hitter, combined with this 65 avoid K, this good defense. I want the 55 power. We want it. We're going after it. And then we're also going to be throwing in one defense guy here at the ends. I like having one defense improvement because that allows you to get more defense guys in here, because once these guys are all done with theirs, these are all 3 to 4 months guys, I throw defense guys in these slots. But when you have a guy in this last spot, it allows you to get another guy here with 4 to 5 weeks. And at least the math makes sense to me. It allows you to get maybe like 1 or 2 more guys in the dev lab for defense than it would if you just did all 3 to 4 month guys and then just simply just did a bunch of defense guys once these guys were all done with their things. So, we're doing that. Plus, there's not really anybody here who I'm like really trying to get in the dev lab, so I just figured I might as well just have Johnson try to improve his defense, because the plan is for him to be our platoon left fielder with Gutierrez. Obviously, we know Gutierrez is good defensively. Josh Johnson, though, is not. So we do have the ability to have Johnson be, since he is the platoon with Gutierrez is able to come in and be a defensive substitution for him. But, it would be ideal if he's not completely awful in left field. Also, I think we are going to go ahead and accept Dylan Carlson's second year, $7 million. I just think he was too good of a player for us last year not to bring back, so Dylan Carlson is going to come back and be our right fielder once again, doing some gap power, getting on base, playing some really good defense for us. It's really the defense is what we want him back for, but he's a good enough bat, especially against lefties, to bring back on our roster this season. I've also thought about possibly moving on from Brad Nelson as our manager. He does have 1 more year left, and I mean, I'm not opposed to just like firing him and just like eating this. But he's fine. He's obviously got the good ratings. We won the World Series with him in 2027, but we've had a bunch of underachieving years here, 3 in a row. He's starting to get some yellow in categories, which I don't like. Really, what I like with managers is being able to mold them. Luckily, he does not want control of any of this stuff, which is really like a total no-go. Like, if you, like, I don't care. We could win 8 straight World Series. If a guy is like, I'm controlling this stuff, I'm like, buddy, you're fired immediately, all right? But Brad Nelson, we've had 3 disappointing seasons. Maybe we get rid of him. Maybe we don't, because like I said, I prefer a guy we can mold. Really don't like the fact that we can't really move this sack bunt around, because that is not something that I want to be doing at all. Ideally, sack bunts are like maybe 1 tick from like 0, but not great, not great there. But the rest of the stuff is still like good enough to where he's not totally useless. So I might decide to bring him back for 1 more year, and then if we make the playoffs, we'll make a decision on him. But I'm also tempted to just kind of be like, yeah, man, we might just move on from you. Folks, we've gone ahead and done it. Logan O'Hoppe has been re-signed. He is now with us if he opts in. So basically, we signed him to an extension through 2037. He has an opt-out after year 4, after his age 35 season, where he's making 28.4 AAV for these first 4 years. And then if he has an opt-out where he drops down to 26 million for 1 more year at age 36, and then at age 37 he has a $26 million year as well at as a team option. So if he opts out, he won't get this, but I don't know. I feel like 36, 37-year-old Logan O'Hoppe is probably going to be opting into this, and we kept him under 30 million. I felt like that was a big thing for me. So Logan O'Hoppe, long-term Angel. Hopefully he retires with us. Oh, I should also mention that we did manage to sign a bunch of these guys are just like dudes signing like 1-year deals to avoid arbitration. Santa, though, only has 1 more year of arbitration at 8.5, so we got him for 200,000 less than that. And then we did get a team option for 11.5 for his first year of free agency. If he's good this year, we'll bring him back for that. If he's bad, we just simply won't bring him back. And as you can probably see here, Kevin Cash is I guess he only reacted to our offer, but he is saying that our offer is the best one. We did go ahead and fire Brad Nelson, so Kevin Cash is the guy we offered to be our manager here. He has not gotten a manager gig since being let go from his Tampa Bay Rays job. It's also crazy to me that it's 2030 and he's still only 52. And you can see here, there are some yellow and reds here, but none of them are in this, which is really what I care about. And then even the ones that are yellow or red are not ones that I particularly am like disagreeing with him. Like outfield shifts, maybe I wanted a little bit higher, but the rest of this stuff I really don't want to mess with. Like I'm fine with the aggressive running. I'm fine with the lefty-righty batting matchups. More than fine with the infield shifts. Fine with the opener. We are completely fine with what he's got here. He's got a good reputation, and he also the big reason why we wanted to go after him was he has an excellent relationship with some of our best hitters: O'Hoppe, Shanuel, Neto, Padilla, Soto, Broyhill, even Lombard. Yeah, just really good, excellent relationships with a lot of our top players, and then even good relationships with guys like Healy, Morfin, Didawick, Gutierrez, Johnson, and then average, and he has a couple fares, but it's fine. It was really just the fact that he had the excellent with like O'Hoppe and Soto is a big thing for me. So Kevin Cash, assuming that nobody else goes after him, is going to be our manager here in Anaheim. Also, the awards have once again been given out, so we're just going to do a quick run through this. Jackson Chourio has won MVP yet again in the National League. That is his 3rd MVP award after an 8-WAR season with the Brewers. Back-to-back 100 runs scored, back-to-back 45-plus doubles, back-to-back 34 and 35 home run seasons, back-to-back 34 and 38 stolen base seasons, putting up really good ZRs in center field. He's not even 27 yet, and this is what I'm talking about. Literally everybody in this game, once you get into these later seasons, just becomes fragile. Just everybody becomes fragile. So it's almost to the point where, like, if you have a fragile guy, it's, like, not even that bad because everybody's fragile. And now he has had some, like, he had a tore back muscle in 2028, but, like, overall he hasn't had, I guess he's had a bunch of, like, nagging stuff. But yeah, I mean everybody is fragile in this game is what I'm trying to get at here. The American League, it is Jackson Holiday and then Samuel Basayo is the second vote getter there. Jackson Holiday, uh that's his first MVP. I guess it's his first MVP. Huh. Somehow his first MVP, despite all of these WAR numbers, just insane. The guy already has 225 home runs. He's 26 years old, and once again, a fragile player. Everybody's fragile. The Cy Young Award winner in the National League is this guy, the Bat Destroyer, yet again. He's not even 24, and he's already got 2 Cy Youngs. He somehow improved upon his 5 WAR season, or his 6 WAR season, with an 8 WAR season. Nothing more to say about him. The American League Cy Young winner, Grayson Rodriguez. I guess he's won 2 at this point. Okay, so he's won back-to-back. He's won back-to-back Cy Youngs. The man from Nacogdoches. I believe how you say that. Nacogdoches, which is where Stephen F. Austin is, I believe. The Rookie of the Year in the National League was this guy from the Blue Jays. Interesting bat. The American League was this guy from the Phillies. Big power bat, hit 40 doubles, 45 home runs, led the league in ribbies, slugging, OPS. Was this? No, that's not. I was like, did Logan Webb get traded? No. National League Silver Sluggers, Jefferson Caro up with the Brewers. This dude with the Cardinals, who were just an absolute monster in this sim. Ellie De La Cruz still doing his thing. Matt McClain's in Texas now. Bobby Witt's doing his thing. This guy, Luis Cornejo, for the Tigers. Is he a real guy? No. At least I don't think. I believe that is a fake player, Luis Cornejo. Jackson Chourio, like we talked about. Jordan Walker, who's been an absolute monster in this save. Starting to slow down a little bit. Fragile, but still an absolute monster. And then you have Frank Flores, who was the guy from the Cubs who we talked about when we looked at their team. The American League. Logan O'Hoppe does not get catcher Silver Slugger even with his bounce-back season because Samuel Basayo here is absolutely taking over the catcher position with the Baltimore Orioles. He's finally getting those like everyday numbers starting 120-plus games, or getting 120-plus games, getting 500-plus ABs, and he's won back-to-back Silver Sluggers at the catcher position because of it with Baltimore. We also have Jackson Holiday on there, Vladdy at first base with the Dodgers, J.P. Jones from the Red Sox, Jordan Lawler, Edgar Polito, which is a guy who I tried to pick up from them at some point when I was, I forget what year it was. It was when he was still I think it was when he was in A-ball, was when I was trying to pick him up. It might have even been after I think it was after 2028 when he had the poor AAA showing, and I tried to pick him up, but they still just would not budge on him, so he's with the Dodgers doing the damn thing. Corbin Carroll, Sergio Cardenas, and then Juan Soto here is the Silver Slugger at DH for his back-to-back 4 WAR seasons at DH for us, just doing the damn thing. And then we move things on to the... We all looked at the NL. The AL Silver Sluggers, the reliever of the year in the National League is Angel Chivili of the Chicago White Sox. And then in the American League, it's Keegan Akin, former Oriole. Yes, former Oriole. Yeah. He's turned into quite an interesting bullpen piece for Washington and Seattle last year. Split the year between 2 teams and still gets reliever of the year. National League Gold Glovers. Tink Hence is in Tampa now, apparently. Sean Murphy, Daniel Cuvée, Noah Miller, Angel Martinez, Mason Wynn, Jung-Hoo Lee's in Atlanta, Elijah Green, Jackson Chirello. Not familiar with this player. Maybe I should. No, he was a 2025 guy at Kennesaw State. Okay. So that makes sense why I've never heard of this guy. But, yeah. American League Gold Glove winners. We had a guy on here, folks. Dylan Carlson does indeed get a gold glove. His first, somehow. Somehow, the first time he's gotten a gold glove. Because teams keep trying to put him in center field. That's why. We put him in right field, boom, gold glove, just like that. And then our guy Vance Honeycutt, who are always checking in, 3 gold gloves for him in the center field position with the Oakland A's. Also, I should mention that I have been playing with the generate international established free agents to none, just because that's what I've been used to. But since there's no more NPB in this game, I figured we should turn it on. Just a few. I don't want a ton of guys who are fake players coming over. I guess it doesn't matter too much now. There's a bunch of fake guys in the league now, but I don't want too many like established free agents flooding the free agent market here. So we're just going to go 5 per year, the majority of them coming from Japan. I felt like this was a decent mix of nations to go for here. Majority Japan, Cuba secondary, and then Taiwan a little bit below that. They had Mexico on here, but I just felt like dudes don't come out of Mexico as like established free agents. So I felt like this was a 3-nation mix here with very heavily favored towards Japan to simulate dudes coming over from the NPB. So here's something that I was looking at for a little bit. When I shopped Rock Wilkin for just all pitchers, this guy came up from the Rockies, who is a ground ball pitcher, throws hard. He's a bit of a reliever risk right now because this changeup hasn't gotten up to 50, but I would be willing to roll the dice on the fact that this changeup can develop. He's a former first-round pick. He's still making league minimum. He's got all 3 options. He's not even 25 yet. He has 10 potential growth ability and stuff, movement. His control's already 55. He's got a really good fastball, a really good sinker. We just need that changeup to develop, and then he could looking like he could be a solid starting pitcher for us here. And he's coming off 2 seasons in the bullpen, 1 not great, 1 much better in the bullpen. But we would be looking to move him into a starting pitcher role, obviously. Apparently he was even their all-star last year because they were probably so bad they only had 1 all-star. And then, if you remember, I mentioned Chase Dolander. I was like, somebody needs to get this guy into Colorado because he's an extreme fly ball. He's got 96 to 98. This movement, if you can tap into that, that's looking solid. 50 control, 65 stuff, fastball, slider, curveball, changeup. And then I'm like, you know what? He's the extreme fly ball. It's not ideal. So I'm just like, let's take a look see here to see what our ballpark is like in this game. So I'm like, holy shit, we actually have quite a high home run overall here for our ballpark factor. And I'm like, I didn't realize that. So I'm like, I'm just kidding. And obviously overall, it plays a little bit less. It plays a little bit like a hitter's park because it evens it out with less doubles, but there's a little bit more triples and a little bit more home runs, whereas the doubles really cut into it. So it's not quite Colorado because if we take a look at Colorado, they are just insane everywhere. The triples and the 2, but we're actually prone to giving up more home runs in our park than Colorado is. And we also have the fact that we're playing games in Colorado now because they're in our division, so that makes it a bit more tricky as well, I feel like. So I feel like we should not be going after any whatsoever extreme fly ball guys, but I still am interested. I was even interested in Mike Lilly just straight up having it like this. But I might do it. We might try to squeeze some other stuff out of them because, but the thing is, they don't really have anything that I'm interested in. Like, this is like the only interesting guy they have in AAA who they obviously would not give to me, the number 7 prospect in baseball. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to get to this guy. And then they just don't really have an interesting farm system. So it's like, maybe I could squeeze this guy out of him, ground ball, former 6th round pick out of Kentucky. He's interesting enough, but like, I don't know. I might do it. I might try to squeeze them, but I'm thinking that's probably it. Because like this guy's not somebody I want because he has the poor control. They don't have any like huge control guys that I'm interested in. So really, we're probably going to go Lilly and McKinney for Brock Wilken, and that'll be the deal we do for him. We'll see how we can get that done. Yeah, so we're just going to go right ahead and do it. Brock Wilken's going to go to Colorado. Maybe this bat comes back to bite us, but he overall has not been the best hitter. He had one solid 2028, and he's been a little bit above league average. He's had a couple years like that, but overall he's not the best hitter. You want a better hitter at first base, I feel like. And we're willing to roll the dice on this guy beating us. But he is in Colorado, so how dangerous can they possibly be? So we're going to trade Wilken for these two pitchers, and they're going to come into our organization here and help us with our ground ball mentality from this point moving forward. Alrighty, so we are here at the end of the offseason, and we are ready to go over everything that has happened to catch you guys up through the offseason here. And you may be wondering, why are we looking at a indie ball players page right now? Well, folks, Jorge Ruiz here, if you don't remember, was the man who hit the home run off of Josh Hader, the lefty-on-lefty home run. This guy was only on our postseason roster simply because he was slightly better defensively than Samuel Zavala. So he made the postseason roster, and he ended up hitting a insane game-tying home run for us in the 2027 ALCS against the Baltimore Orioles. So literal Los Angeles Angels legend here, and just a fascinating career this guy has had, to where he was just never good enough to ever get in the big leagues aside from that just very niche playoff run that he had. He never played a regular season game for us. He's still 26, so maybe somebody picks him up at some point, but who knows? Probably not. But he's down here with the Gastonia Ball Club in the Atlantic League. I think that's where this is. I'm not sure. ATL. So I'm assuming that's the team. Does it say? The Gastonia Baseball Club? It's probably right in front of me and I'm just completely missing it. But whatever. Wherever this is, that's where he's playing. And yeah, just insane career. You can sort by postseason here. 3 plate appearances, a 334 WRC plus, including I believe it was a 3-run home run. It might have been a 2-run home run, but he had a home run off Josh Hader. And it came back to me because as I'm recording this, it was a couple days ago that the postseason run, all those videos have been getting posted as of recently here. So it's just been kind of jogging my memory, and I got to that episode, and I was like, holy shit. So I felt like we had to do a check-in on Jorge Ruiz here and see what he's been up to. And as you can see, just never made the big leagues in the regular season, and now he's down there in indie ball, just doing his thing, playing baseball, keeping the dream alive. All right, just because I don't remember exactly where I left off in the last recording, we're just going to quickly run through from the start of the offseason here, essentially, where we fired Brad Nelson as our manager. He is no longer the manager of the Los Angeles Angels. He was on the 2027 team, but I just felt like we needed to make a change. It was the last year of his contract, and I was like, we need to bring in a new face here. And we went out and we picked up Kevin Cash, who is now our manager here. Has not managed since his stint with the Rays, which ended in 2027, coincidentally. But he is now the manager of our team here in Los Angeles. Still only 53 years old somehow, so he's our new manager. We claimed Will Gasparino off of waivers from the Toronto Blue Jays, simply because he still had options, and he was an interesting enough bat. He's going to start the year in AAA for us, but he could end up on the big league team here at some points. Just a crazy talent in real life. I believe in real life he's a 6'6" freshman who plays center field for UT. So not quite a center fielder in this, but still a decent enough talent to have around in the organization. I believe I also mentioned that we did re-sign Logan O'Hoppe to an extension. He is signed through 2037 with the full deal. He does have an opt-out after 2035, but all of these years we kept him under $30 million. For an AAV, so that's fantastic stuff. Logan O'Hoppe is going to be around very long term here in Anaheim. Then we went ahead and we traded Brock Wilken to the Colorado Rockies, so he's going to be in our division this season, coming off a couple down years, or I guess just a down 2030, and okay-ish. He's never been great, but he obviously did not fit with our team. We trade him to Colorado, and in return, we get this guy who's going to be in our bullpen here, Mike Lilly. He is a right-handed pitcher, a ground ball pitcher, which is what we really wanted to go for this offseason. Get a lot of high movement, control, ground ball type dudes. And he fits that as well. He could possibly be a starter at some point, but right now he is definitely a reliever for us. Coming off a very solid year in the Colorado bullpen, he is now going to be in our bullpen. And then we also, just as a throw-in, picked up this other pitcher who had a decent enough rating and obviously has plenty of options. I believe this is... Okay, no, he's not on one of those options was used by Colorado. I thought maybe he was on our team, and maybe we used that third option or his first option. But he does have two options. He is an interesting enough piece. I'm sure you'll see him at some point in the big leagues. Now we move on to December, and I believe I remember mentioning right before I ended the last recording that I turned on the international generated free agents because there's no NPB in this game anymore, and I wanted to generate just a couple Japanese guys every year, so it would simulate the fact that we do have Japanese guys coming into our league at a more defined role, like a more defined time in their career rather than like prospects. I don't want the league to have 0 Japanese players in it, so I felt like I turned that on, and what do you know? We go into free agency, and Torao Kaneda falls right into our lap. This 27-year-old god. I believe he was even 26 when we signed him. That sounds right. This 27-year-old god. February 8th, I didn't even realize that's my birthday. Hell fucking yeah. Let's go. But anyways, so this guy just falls into our lap. Exactly what we're looking for here. The extreme ground ball. He's got 60 movement with 65 potential. He could possibly even get the home run suppression up to 70. He's got 65 control with the possibility to get it up to 70. 3 solid pitches, all moving different fastballs. This guy is a dream. And once we saw this guy was available, we decided to pivot from going after Skeens and go after this guy and somebody else because we weren't going to be able to afford this guy and somebody else because Kaneda here didn't even want a lot of money. We got him for $15 million on the dot through 2037, which is only his age 33 season, and the last 2 years are team options. So who knows? Maybe this guy flames out, doesn't work out, and he's not. And we don't pick up these 2 options, but I envision this guy being a very good starting pitcher, and we have him signed through his age 33 season. So Torao Kaneda here, absolute stud for us, going to be a member of our rotation. And then we also were able to go and get Yuri Perez. Our staff is extremely right-handed. He is a fly ball pitcher, but I felt like this was the type of guy that you can go out and get because he's good enough to overlook the fact that he is a fly ball pitcher. Throws absolute gas. He's not even 30 yet. He's going to be 28 like very early on in April, so still sub 30. We have him signed through 2037 as well, and also to a decently cheap deal. He wanted a very weird thing where he was going to have like 2 different opt-outs plus some other like player options. It was a very weird thing. I managed to talk him down from that. We were able to get him for quite cheap these first 3 years, I feel like. Then he gets a pay bump up to 29.5 his age 31 season. Then he has an opt-out after that year. And then he can, if he opts in, he'll be making 30.5, and then we have 2 more team options at the end of that as well. So I feel like these are pretty solid deals. I wanted to go out there and beef up the pitching staff, and we have done that. And we have done that by not acquiring super old players either. So Perez and Kaneda here, hopefully the long-term plan as the 1-2 starters here. And we still have Zach Gallen, obviously. So it's Kaneda, Perez, Zach Gallen, 1, 2, 3. I think that's pretty damn solid. But yeah, so those were our 2 big signings here in the offseason. But wait, there's more. I wanted to go out and get us a kind of like a stopgap, buy low, shortstop possible guy for us. And Khalil Watson fit that role for me. He's not the most interesting bat, but he's got enough of like gap power, eye here. and then paired with the speed, paired with the glove, to be an interesting enough player. Now, obviously, if he doesn't work out, I would have no quarrels just being like, it didn't work out, I'm sorry, we're just going to move on from you. But if it does work out, I'll look like a genius, because I may be getting a bit ahead of myself here, because if we look at his career MLB stats, looking at postseason like a moron, he had a not great 2025 and a cup of coffee, a full season in 2026 where he looks like he was good with the glove but didn't really hit, and then he was really good in 2027, which I believe was Kyron Paris' year as well, where he was really, really good, and then he had 3 years of just not good ball. And he was playing third base and second base. He wasn't like primarily a shortstop. I guess he was in 2026. So in 26 and 27, his best years, he was a very good shortstop. And then they moved him off shortstop for whatever reason. They tried playing him in the corner at second base. But he's been a solid shortstop in his career. Even last year, he was a third baseman. 2029 with Milwaukee, he had a 2 ZR at shortstop. So he only has 65 range, but he's got a bunch of blue here with the 75 error, the 70 arm, and the 75 turn DP, plus the 70 shortstop rating, which I feel like makes him a very solid option at that position, with a bit of an interesting bat, which he's still the 9 hitter, but I felt like he was, a solid enough buy low, try him out for 1 year type guy. And if he doesn't work out, we do have Alvaro Dowd down in AAA, who I know can come up and give us a valuable glove at that shortstop position. Then we went out and we did indeed trade away Bob Moore. So he is no longer a member of the Los Angeles Angels here. We sent him to the Milwaukee Brewers because I guess we just love doing deals with the Brewers. Bob Moore was actually a solid backup for us, Not gonna complain about anything he gave us, because he was solid. He was the captain for us in the clubhouse, gave us some decent pinch running, gave us some decent defense, gave us some decent gap power. Okay seasons here in Los Angeles, but he was just too expensive to justify having a bench player. And we had some guys who could fill that role, which you will see once we go over the roster here. And if we also take a look at his career fielding stats here, he was never like anything great in the field. Obviously, he wasn't playing huge innings there, but it wasn't like he was standing out as like a guy who comes in and plays like really, really good defense. Even last year when he got time all over the place in a bunch of different starting spots, he was negative ZR. So I just felt like it was time to move on from him, get something for him, and we ended up just getting, this guy was just kind of like a throw-in, like random reliever prospect to make it work, but we just got this dude who is I feel like a younger outfield version of Bob Moore, where he plays really good defense at a non-premier position, has really good gap power, decent avoid K, really good arm. In the corner outfields, he has the good speed, and he's obviously much younger than Bob Moore is. And he's also a cold weather guy. He's not some Nepo baby. He's a cold weather guy. He was in their system, just an A-ball for like 2 straight years, just tearing it up. So I was like, okay, you're going to be in Double-A to start this season. He's a guy you could see in the big leagues at some point, and he's also a leader. So he's outfield Bob Moore, is what I think he is. Then, just when you thought we were done picking up guys, we went out here and signed Bryan Woo, not to be a starter, but to be a reliever, folks. The man who has spent his entire career with the Seattle Mariners in our division. We've seen him. He's had some up and down years. He's had years where he's like solid, like 2 WAR, goes out and eats innings for you type guy. He's had 2028 where he was a legit pitcher for them. But he's mostly been just sort of like an innings eater, hang around league average sort of guy with like decent WAR totals. But he's like, nothing to complain about type starting pitcher, coming off probably not his best year. And he was a 45 rating in free agency as a starter, so I was like, okay. And at first he was a guy who was asking for like 10 something mil, and he came way down to where we got him on a $2 million deal, and we even have him on a team option for 2.5 next year if we decide to bring him back. Like if he lights it up in our bullpen this year, he is an option to come back for next season. And not that I really care too much about pitcher defense, but he is like the absolute madman at winning Gold Gloves at the pitcher position in the American League. So yeah, he's just a decent player to have here. And he's going to be a part of our bullpen for at least one season. We'll see how things goes. And of course, he gives us that ability to have a guy who we can put in the rotation if somebody gets hurt and move him into our rotation from our bullpen. He is a fly ball guy, but he's pitched in this division enough to where, obviously he's had a bunch of just straight 1.4 home runs per nine, which is not the best. Definitely an issue, but he strikes out guys. He limits walks really well. He's got the 60 control, the 65 BABIP. I feel like he is a decent guy to take a swing on, especially at this very, very reduced price for a guy who has put up years like this in the rotation. So, yeah, no-brainer move into my mind. So, let's take a look at what our team is actually looking like. The arms, or the chuckers, as Mike Rooney would call them. 1 through 5, it is Kaneda, Perez, Zach Gallen, Olimber Santa, and Jacob Miller. These two are back. Santa did take a hit in scouting to where he's down to a 45, but I still believe in this guy's ratings, where he's just going to be like a dude who goes out there, strikes at a ton of guys. He's super volatile because he walks a ton, but he's got like the big stuff and the big strikeout ability to where he can like erase some of his own mistakes. And he wasn't even that bad with the home run per nine. And he's been in the rotation with Miami the past 2 seasons before he came to us. He'd been a guy who limits home runs pretty well. So I'm not really concerned about him. I think he'll be fine. Jacob Miller, he's a solid 5th starter. He is what he is. I don't think he's going to be putting up these 3 WAR type numbers. But, we're just asking him to be in there and be our 5th starter and just don't suck. And then we take a look at the bullpen. We're going with the closer, 2 stoppers, and a bunch of middle relievers. So Jeremiah Estrada, his stamina took a hit down to 30, so we went with him as the closer with the high leverage role, and we're giving him the ability to get some 4-out saves. So Jeremiah Estrada is the closer. Andrew Healy and Eric Rose are the stoppers. Eric Rose got a big boost in scouting here. His stuff goes from 55 to 60. His overall goes up. Last year, he improved a bunch. Like I said, 16th round pick. This guy comes out of nowhere, and he's now a stopper for us. Just absolute stud. And then the rest of these dudes, we've got Brian Wu and Ben Joyce as the use more often middle relievers, stopper and setup role, secondary role, respectively. And then the next tier of dudes is Mike Lilly, who we brought over from Colorado. I'm sure this guy's fake, so he's probably not Ted Lilly's kid, but whenever I see Lilly as a pitcher, I'm just thinking Ted Lilly. Jose Lopez, no longer a stopper for us. He has been demoted down to a lefty middle relief with a secondary of a specialist role. And then Skylar Hales is our other reliever here. Throws super hard. We picked him up from the Rays in 2027 in the offseason after 2027, and he's just never really gotten too much of a chance. In 2028, he wasn't good. He was okay, but not great. I'd say he's bad. I would say this is bad. He did not have a bad 2020. He had a bad 2028 season. 2029, he was in AAA. Was not great. Giving up a ton of home runs. But we're hoping that, now in a little bit more stable of an environment, and that's not Salt Lake, I think these ratings can play. He's a ground baller. He throws super hard. He's an interesting piece to have in the pen, I feel like, and we're going to see how he does. And, of course, if he doesn't do well, we've got plenty of guys who can take his spot down in AAA. Let's actually go over what the big league roster looks like. I haven't done the benches yet, but this is just the general, who is going to make the team here. Logan O'Hoppe is your starting catcher. Nolan Shanuel's at first base. Zach Neto's at second. Juan Padilla is going to be at third. Khalil Watson at short. Josh Johnson in left. Platooning with Anthony Gutierrez again. Mike Broyhill in center. Dylan Carlson in right. And Juan Soto at DH, while George Lombard is actually going to be our backup second, third, and short this season. Coming off the disappointing campaign, but Mr. Padilla here, we need to talk about Padilla. As you might notice, this power came out of nowhere, folks. We put him in the lab this offseason to generate more home run power, and boy, did he do that well. Outstandingly completed the generate bat speed, and if we take a look at his scouting here, he bumped his current power rating from a 50 to a 60. That is a 10-point jump, a potential jump from 55 to 65. And now Juan Padilla is suddenly looking like a guy who is just going to be an absolute monster for us. And now that I'm looking at this guy, Burns was texting me the other day about how he was watching the videos, and he was like, oh, I left off, you were talking about some guy from Niagara County Community College. And I was like, bro, I don't know who that was. That was forever ago. You're going to have to be more specific. And then he gets back to me. Turns out that was Juan Padilla. And I didn't want to tell him, but whenever you're watching this, Burns, shout out to you. Niagara County, Juan Padilla, looking like an absolute beast. And then just a quick touch on the backups here. Dave Peter is our backup catcher once again this season. Anthony Gutierrez, like I said, is going to be playing left field against left-handed pitching. And we also have Gavin Turley, who's going to be a bench bat for us. He's sort of like a Khalil Watson type bat, where he's got an interesting gap power eye BABIP combo. Really good speed, really good defense. He's our backup center fielder, essentially. And if we just take a look at the programs here, I also biffed it this year to where I ended up taking Johnson out for defense. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that I had him in for defense. We ended up putting in, it was either Padilla or Morphin, who I put in at the last second to generate bat speed instead of Johnson. And if it was Padilla, thank God I did that, because that was that ended up paying off. It might have been Morphin, though. It might have been Morphin who I put in for power instead, who did not do anything. But so I biffed it, and once these guys completed theirs, basically, if you do the 3 to 4 months thing on the first day of the offseason that allows you, boom, you put them all in there, they go through their 3 to 4 months ones, and then that day that they complete them, you have to add in the rest of the guys for defense, and it allows you to double up on all the slots. I, like an absolute moron, immediately hit advance next day. I went over here, hit the check mark, boom, and I immediately was doing like surrender Cobra, and I was like, man, I'm a moron. So I biffed it, was not able to get any defensive improvements out of the lab this season, but whatsoever, especially because Juan Padilla here. As you can see, it says it only improved by 5, but that's more than 5, baby. Juan Padilla, just absolute monster. Anthony Gutierrez also improved, had an outstanding improvement with the strength and conditioning. I think maybe he was the guy I added into last second to improve his durability, because he's a fragile guy. And then it worked. It didn't move it to normal, but it went from very fragile, almost wrecked, to fragile. I like to see that. And somehow, with all the core strengthening he was doing for increased torque and stability, he also has increased his power. So Anthony Gutierrez here, all of a sudden, they're saying he might hit some more home runs this season. Seeing an increase in power at the plate. Would even expect to see an uptick in his home run total next season. So we'll take that. And then Morphin, no improvement for him. No improvement for Bray, unfortunately. But then Armari Collar, outstanding program here for control. Moves the potential and the current up by 5. As you can see right now, he has the 50 control with the 65 potential. And I would say he's going to be on the big league roster fairly soon, I would say. And then even Alvaro Dowd here had a successful gap power improvement. He is up to a 45. Still has he has the 50 potential. I'm not sure exactly what that was at. His potential contact went up. His potential gap rating did improve. So that is good to see. That's why I put him in there. And now all of a sudden he gets up to 50 at some point. Much more of an interesting bat than he was. Never going to be a good bat, but much more interesting than he was, with this being at 40 or whatever it was at, with this glove paired with it. And then unfortunately, Mike Broyhill did not improve his strength and conditioning, so he is still the same amount of fragile that he was, which is unfortunate because I've mentioned he's a guy that I would like to get to a long-term extension, but I'm very hesitant with him being fragile. Eric Rose, he improved as well. If you remember, I was talking about trying to improve his sinker. So I was like, he doesn't have an off-speed pitch, so improve Arsenal as like it focuses on their bad off-speed pitches. Maybe the game recognizes this as an off-speed pitch. Maybe somebody has commented about this like 4 times since in the episodes that have posted before this one, and I'm just sounding like a moron right now. But I just wasn't sure which one it was, so we put him, or even if it counts, or even if we're able to improve this sinker, since it's not an off-speed pitch, but we put it in the easy to improve one, and he did have a big success with his cutter, but still. We would have liked to improve the sinker to get him a possible rotation spot. But still, he is looking like an absolute monster in the bullpen, and that's why we made him into a stopper role for us, coming off a very solid season. We're hoping he can drop down this home run per 9 this year and really come into his own as just an absolute monster reliever for us. And then just taking a quick look here at the preseason predictions, the Yankees are projected to win the American League Metro Division with the Red Sox, Orioles, Phillies, and Mets all in the mix behind them. And then in the Pacific Division, we are projected to win the Pacific Division by a lot. A 7-game lead on both the Dodgers and the A's coming out of nowhere, showing up, being a solid team here. What is their... Okay, still a tiny, but I believe these used to be even way lower. So this is actually improvement, if you aren't aware of the current state of the Oakland A's in this game from day one. It's not great. They're even projected to get increase in season tickets here, and attendance per game. That is incredible. So Oakland putting together a decent team here as they are projected to be a pesky team here in the Pacific Division, along with the Dodgers, the A's, the Mariners, the Giants, and even the D-backs are projected to get 80 wins. Top hitters, nobody for us there. But top pitchers, nobody for us there. No respect for Kaneda. No respect for Yuri Perez. No respect for Zach Gallen. No respect for Juan Soto. No respect for Nolan Shanuel. No respect for Logan O'Hoppe. What are you going to do? They hate us. And then in the National League, the Tigers are projected to win the Great Lakes Division. Ideally, that division comes down to the wire. You get a bunch of teams fighting for playoff spots in like gray skies. The game starts like an hour and a half later than it was supposed to because a tornado touched down 3 counties over. It's the Great Lakes, baby. Toronto projected 90 wins, and then like the White Sox, Reds, Brewers, Twins, all projected to be quite pesky as well. The Cardinals projected 99 wins, with the Royals, Braves, and Rangers behind them. And also, I should mention, 2 things I should mention. 1, Tampa Bay Rays here, we have rebranded them back to being the Devil Rays. We haven't changed their name to the Devil Rays. I might do that. I might leave it the way it is. But we've made their branding to be what their ideal branding should be. The Devil Rays. The purple, the bright colors, what they rock with their alternate unis in real life, essentially. And if we take a look at their settings... Boom. This is their home uni. This is their away uni. So yeah, the Devil Rays are back in Tampa. They've always been in Tampa, but the branding is back just because, I get in these long-term sims and I get tired of looking at teams' logos all the same and whatnot, so I like to mix things up, give teams like their ideal best color scheme, their ideal best branding. Like the Marlins are a team I usually mess with to be teal again. I used to, when the game you were able to go to like, it was easier to edit the jerseys on your own. I used to give the Rockies more purple in their sets, but it's more tough to do that now. And I also, clicked on the wrong team here. The Padres are a team that sometimes I mess with too, because sometimes I get tired of looking at the brown and yellow, and I move them back to being like navy and orange, like they were in like the Tony Gwynn era. But yeah, so maybe you'll see that at some point, maybe you won't. But if we go to Raleigh was another team I wanted to show because we changed their logo. It's a bit bigger now. Like I said, very basic logo I came up with in Photoshop in like 10 minutes, but it is up there. And another thing I wanted to mention before we cap it off here, the Expo is projected to go 60 and 102. What is Raleigh projected? 61 and 101, both bad teams. But the Expos here are an interesting team Was it spoiled, perhaps? It was. When I was looking at this, you guys are probably looking at this being like, jersey, Paul Skeens is in Montreal. I was getting to it, all right? I was getting to it. He kind of screwed me. Let's be honest here. Paul Skeens signs for 21.6. I could have easily afforded this. Easily afforded this if I wanted to. We're paying Yuri Perez more than they're paying Paul Skeens. Simply because I decided to go after Kaneda. And when I did that, at the time, Paul Skeens was wanting like a shit ton of money. Like, he came out in free agency and was like, I want like 38 mil per year or something like that. And we just couldn't afford that. So we went after Perez instead, combined with Kaneda, which I'm not like regretting. Like, I still think we have a very, very solid rotation, but it would have been cool to have Kaneda and Skeens. But Skeens, I guess people were being like, buddy, we're not giving you that price. And then Montreal came in and was like, let's just sign the biggest free agent of our expansion team here and kickstart off our pitching staff while having nothing around him. So Paul Skeens is now a member of the Montreal Expos here to start the 2031 season. So we will definitely be keeping tabs on that. I might even throw him on my keep an eye list simply just so I get updates about him in the mail and news here. But yeah, that is where we're going to leave things off. Or no, I am going to do these. Don't worry, this lineup probably looks weird. I will be editing this by the time we actually start getting into games. But we're going to leave things off here, and we pick things back up. We will be underway in the 2031 campaign.